Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. A little while back, Archon Studios sent me review copies of a number of their products from the Dungeons & Lasers Woodhaven series, and I have already looked at those products in detail in a previous video. But there was one set in particular that I was really interested in, and that was the Ghost Dragon, and I wanted to get that painted up as soon as possible, and that's what we're going to do in today's video. The Ghost Dragon is a really lovely miniature, and it's pretty massive. It stands at 152mm tall, and I don't know if you can tell from the image on the cover of the box, but if you look carefully you can see that it is made from a translucent plastic. I am not normally a fan of miniatures made in translucent plastic because it comes with its own set of problems, and we will talk about those issues in a moment. First, let's open the box and get out the sprues. The miniature is actually on 3 sprues, 2 are translucent and then 1 is a regular grey plastic. And this grey plastic frame is for the scenic base element, which is basically a rocky outcrop. And you can deal with that in the normal way. Spray undercoat it with Chaos Black, dry brush it up, and it's good to go. But the other frames are this translucent material. And when you have the translucent plastic, the idea is you can assemble the miniature and you don't need to worry about painting it. It already looks ghostly, it already looks ethereal. And it's a neat concept, but that translucent material does come with some problems. The biggest issue is when it comes to painting, because obviously you cannot prime the miniature and paint it in the normal way. You lose the translucency, unless of course you're not worried about the translucency, in which case fill your boots. Paint is going to adhere very poorly to this plastic without any kind of primer, so I find it's a good idea before painting these to hit them with a very thin coat of spray-on matte varnish. Every layer of product you apply to the miniature will take away some of that translucency, but a thin coat of varnish will help with any painting you do. But anyway, I'm not going to do it all on camera, but I'm going to quickly assemble this miniature so we can start looking at how I'm going to paint it. And here we have our finished dragon, and it looks amazing. It's a really imposing piece. It's certainly going to scare your heroes if you place it on the table during a game of Dungeons & Dragons, not least because it is a spectral entity. They're going to have trouble trying to fight this thing. But it is huge. As I mentioned before, it stands at 152mm. It's on a 50mm base. It really is a chunky piece of plastic, and the sculpting is lovely. You can't really see all of the details in the video here because it is made in that particular type of material, but trust me, it's really nice. And I love all of the streaming, smoky, ethereal look on the wings and the tendrils coming out of the head and the legs. And the way it is attached to the base as well is very cool, but it does cause a problem. You will notice here that I have already painted the base. The scenic rock is already painted. I just hit it with Chaos Black, Mechanica standard grey dry brush, then a non-oil wash, and then a Dawnstone dry brush to finish it. And the reason I've done that is because if you look carefully, you can see that the dragon wraps around the base, and its claws, all 4 claws, are actually snapped onto the base. There are recesses in the rocks where those claws fit. You have to build this dragon attached to the base. You can't build the dragon in the base and attach them after painting them. So I thought the easiest thing to do would be to paint the base, and then I can paint the dragon afterwards. But before we do get to that painting, I just wanted to show this dragon against some other miniatures. This first miniature is Oregon, another dragon from Archon Studios, and that one is a pretty chunky size as well, but as you can see, really pales in comparison to this gigantic ghost dragon. And then just to show you how scared your heroes will be, here he is standing next to one of the old Advanced Hero Quest henchmen. Your heroes are going to have a bad time, which is marvellous. That's what we like to see. All told, I think this is a really good miniature. Strong pose, big imposing size. I would say the transparent nature of the material doesn't necessarily work so well on a miniature of this scale, because you are layering up different components and attaching them together, and I have to say the pieces did go together really well, and a lot of the join lines are quite well hidden, which is a big bonus, because again, when you're working with this see-through plastic, you cannot use things like green stuff if you're not going to paint the miniature afterwards, because all of that filler will be very apparent. But this miniature went together really well, and a lot of the joins were hidden. The only thing I would say is, because it is a big chunk of plastic, it's not that transparent. It's fine on things like the wings, but once you have that big central mass, that chest with the legs and the arms, you really do lose a sense of that transparency. But anyway, I'm going to paint this thing, and my idea is to paint it like a ghost from Skyrim. I've done a video on this method before, but I've never tried it on a miniature of this scale before. But if you've ever played Skyrim, you will know that the ghosts have a dark mass at the bottom, and then they work up to a lighter blue, and then they have this glow around the top parts of their shoulders and their heads, and I want to try and recreate that look in a miniature. But obviously in my style of trying to do things as simply as possible. And to achieve this effect, we are going to use 2 different Army Painter tones, and we will use 2 different Citadel paints. First, the Army Painter tones. We will be using blue tone and purple tone, and the first thing we will do, we will take the blue tone and we will apply a wash of that, a thin wash, over all of the miniature. And we're just going to try and bring out some of the detail without creating a lot of pooling, without losing a lot of the translucency of the plastic. And of course we will avoid getting it on the base as much as possible, but if we do get some on the base, it's just going to look like a reflection of that ethereal dragon anyway, so it's not that much of a concern. And this is what the dragon will look like after a single coat of the Army Painter blue tone. It doesn't look that great at the moment, but at least now those details are starting to show up, and you can see a lot better the way that the miniature is put together. You can see a lot of the joins are hidden, which is nice. But the next thing we need to do, we need to add some purple tone to our blue tone. And what we will do is we will apply that purple and blue tone mix on the lower part of the dragon. We are going to work from the tip of the tail up to about halfway up the back. But then we are also going to put it on the arms and the legs, and we will also put it on the wings, starting at the shoulder joints and working up to about halfway along the unfurled wing. So on the wings themselves, you will get a transition from a darker blue to a lighter blue. And on the trunk of the body itself, that transition will happen about halfway. And this is what you end up with. You can see how we are transitioning from those 2 different colours. You can apply more transition levels if you want. I'm just going to do 3. So for my 3rd colour, I'm adding a little bit more purple to the wash that I have been using already, and we are just going to apply that to the lower part of the miniature, the tail and the claws. And once we've done that, we have a miniature that transitions from a very dark purple blue at the bottom, working up to a much lighter blue at the top, with that transition also apparent in the unfurled wings. But now we need to do one final step. We have some Keramite white. We're going to add just a small drop of Temple Guard blue just to make it an off-white colour, and then we are going to dry brush all over the face, all over the head and the tips of the wings, just to give a really nice final transition to that much lighter colour, to try and get that Skyrim look of the ethereal glow around the tops and the tips of the miniature. You can see the transition there on the open wings, and as I turn the miniature around, you can see we have that highlight on all of those tendrils at the top, all over the head, all over the facial details, really pulling focus on those details at the top of the miniature. And also, as a final touch, I did just put a drop of Cassandora yellow into the eyes, just to really make those eyes pop and to draw focus to the face. And that finishes painting the miniature. Very quick, very easy, but I do think it's quite a nice way to achieve a ghostly, ethereal look. And if we look at the base of the miniature, you can see you do lose some of the details in the darker areas, which is exactly the effect I wanted to achieve. And overall, I think it does look spectral, it does look like an unearthly entity, and I'm happy with that result, and I'm very happy with this miniature. I think it looks lovely, it's so well sculpted, it's so nicely put together. I'm very, very impressed with this one, even though I had to work with the transparent plastic that I'm not usually a fan of. But that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.